Hey coffee nerds, I'm Brody, and today I wanted to do a very quick breakdown of a new portable coffee brewer that I've been using on the road, on the plane, on the train, all of them. And I am back here in Canada now, in Beamsville during the quarantine, but I've been getting some good use out of this PIPAMOKA here. And I just want to give you a full disclaimer up front. I have done projects with them in the past. I'm currently doing projects with them. So this is not a completely, unbiased video. I do like the product, but this video should just be a way to demonstrate and showcase this product to you so you can make that decision yourself. But PIPAMOKA is actually, it's a product of the brand Wacaco. So if you've ever heard of the mini presso or the nano presso, I've done some projects with them in the past when I was biking across Spain. And they came out with this new project when I was in Thailand actually. So we got to, if you were watching my Instagram, we got to go to a Thai coffee farm and use this little amazing coffee brewer in action. If you've seen some of my other YouTube videos, I've used it as well. But this is gonna be super straightforward. It's great. It's a great brewer for on the go. As you can see, it's all kind of like very sturdily built, stainless steel on the outside. And I'm just gonna break it down for you. But first, before I do that, I wanna show you the different products that we're using to make this cup of coffee. It's very simple. Normally I love breaking out the scale, the gooseneck kettles and the unique grinders and thermometers and these things. But that's what's nice about nomadic brewing, something that I do a lot when I'm on the road, is that I try to make it as simple as possible. And I think some people even like doing that at home. So I'm gonna show you how you can make a great cup of coffee with this thing with no scale. I have my hot water in here. This is just a thermos. So you can basically make a great coffee anywhere. That's why I've chosen to do this outside. So I do apologize for any wind. I think there's a big storm coming, so I'll try to wrap this up quick. So today we're using coffee from Yemen, which was roasted locally in Toronto, just an hour away, by a local roaster called Ethica. Now Gregory, he's the owner. He's been working through a few different iterations of their designs. It's a very cool sort of like modernist design panel. But anyways, we're not here about the design of this coffee. We're here about the flavor and how it applies to the PIPAMOKA. So as you know, I'm using this. It's an Option O hand grinder. Now, normally I would be measuring this all out, but what's unique about this brewer, and I'll show you in a second. So let's seal that up. Let's just set that aside and let's open this thing up. Now we've got coffee in the grinder. We're gonna grind that up in a few minutes. But basically I wanna break this down. So this is the lid, pretty classic. But what's nice, and I'll show you in a second, is it actually screws on to the bottom of this thing to make it into a cup. And I do apologize for the beeping going on over here. We're out in the wild, we're nomadic brewing. We're actually at home, but still, it's kind of like nomadic brewing, and all the elements are against us here. But no matter, here we are. We got this nice little spoon. This is gonna help us to scoop out the coffee inside of our canister here. So this is gonna come in handy in a second. I'll show you why. Now look at this. This is actually the filter. So this is the little canister that goes inside of the PIPAMOKA. And one thing that I haven't mentioned yet is the PIPAMOKA is actually designed as a vacuum brewer. So basically we are going to be pulling the coffee through out of the water to create a vacuum underneath essentially and to create a great brew. I know it seems a little bit complicated and scientific at this moment, but once we break it down, it will just make all the sense. So basically I'm gonna pull this out for now. As you can see, there's nothing in here. This has an amazing screw action. This is our double-walled cup. And like I mentioned, this lid fits on here perfectly. And I have thrown this in my bag and stuff. It doesn't leak. So it's a really nice, doubles as a great, travel mug, travel cup. And as you'll see in a minute, you can drink right out of this thing when you finish brewing. So let's just get right to it and I'll walk you through the whole process. So essentially we have our PIPAMOKA here. You wanna make sure this is all the way down and you wanna make sure it's just this screw part inside the cup for now. Now, I will show you inside here, there's a few little lines that you can fill it up to, depending on how strong you want to make your coffee. But we're gonna just make a regular sized coffee here, so we're gonna fill it up all the way. This water is as close to boiling temperature as I can make it. If you're super nerdy, like I am sometimes, you can bring a thermometer and just measure to see where it's at. But if you're using a thermos, you kind of have to go with what nature gives you. So that's the water, it's sitting in there. Probably should have ground this up first, but the idea is that this would be ground however you want to grind it. You can use a hand grinder, you can bring ground coffee and just make sure you seal it well if you're going on a day trip or something. You've seen me do this before, so I'm just gonna fast forward. Now, that's not all the coffee, but that should be enough for our purposes. Give that a good whack. And so good. Yemeni, chocolatey coffee. So now we take our canister, like I showed you, open that up. This has sort of a coarse mesh filter here, but it's a very, very fine mesh filter here. And then the water, you know, the coffee will actually come out of this sort of crack ring here. But the point is that we actually use this as a type of a funnel. We just stick that on top. And it just helps the coffee from spilling over. I'm gonna pour that inside until it gets up to the ring that is created here. And just give it a quick shake. That's perfect. As you can see, it's nice and level there. And then I'm gonna put this on top. So I put that on top. Again, nice container. You don't need to compress it or anything. We've got our water here, and all you have to do is literally just drop it in there. So it won't make too much of a splash, but right now it is currently going down the shaft of this cylinder. It is going down through the cup, and it is gonna settle at the bottom. And you know, as any brewing parameters, as any brewer that you work with, you can play around with, you know, the timing, the temperature, the grind size. I would encourage you to do the same with this thing. But what I typically do is I let it get to the bottom. I wait until it stops bubbling. And that way I know that, you know, it's at the bottom and all the coffee inside that canister is essentially soaked with water. So once that happens, it takes a little bit of time. I'm gonna just pop this on here. This doesn't have a screwing ability, so it just kind of sits on the top. And as you can see, like while I'm waiting for that to happen, I'm just gonna kind of keep an eye on these bubbles, but it's very compact. You know, have this nice little pouch here that protects it from scratches and from, you know, maybe falling apart, you know, the lid coming off when you're traveling, but it is very compact. It's, you know, sometimes I like to travel with the AeroPress, sometimes I like to travel with this thing, and then I just bring my hand grinder with me as well. So this is pretty much ready here. It was cool when I was in Thailand earlier this year. I got to show it to the Thai farmer and be able to brew coffee with him right there with very minimal equipment. Like he brought his roasted coffee, we brewed it on the farm. It was fun times. Now this is a fun part too. So basically, we're gonna be screwing, unscrewing, or screwing. Depends how you wanna phrase it. Depends what sounds appropriate to you. But we're gonna be getting this coffee out of that water through this twisting process. This can be therapeutic. This can be meditative. Depending on your frame of mind. This can be a barrier between you and your coffee. But I seem to like it. It's a nice, smooth, even way to make sure that you're getting a good extraction. And you just keep screwing until you start to notice that it gets to the end, right? Now, one trick with this thing is, you know, with most pour overs, when you pull it off the cup, you have to put it somewhere so that it doesn't drip everywhere. And so I like to use this thing, just take the lid off, and then you just peel that off, make sure it's there, and you just put it on top. So it will drip a little bit, but it's just gonna drip onto this lid. Look at that. We've got our own little cup, my own little cup. I mean, it's not much different than any other cup of coffee, other than the fact that it was brewed from a vacuum, and it is in the container that it was used to brew from. So it's a very nice Yemen. Oh, that smells just like pure, like it smells like, I don't know how many of you celebrated Easter as a kid, but it reminds me of Easter as a kid, because you wake up to Easter chocolate just kind of all over the house. Maybe you went hunting for it, and that's just what it reminds me of. Maybe white chocolate, some milk chocolate. I don't eat that much white chocolate and milk chocolate these days, but vegans, don't fear. This is completely milk free, and it's very delicious. Very fruity. Like, that's the thing that is tricky about metal filters. Sometimes, you know, especially with a French press or a cheap espresso machine, you run the risk of getting fines in your cup, or like, you know, too much kind of sediment, or like varying extraction. But I feel like the metal filter on this thing really does a good job. I really like it, and it's great for making more coffee or less coffee. So that's the PIPAMOKA. I appreciate you sitting through that windy demonstration. It is very hot here in Ontario. I don't know if you heard that, but that was pure thunder. It's funny because it's very sunny over here, and this is Canadian weather. I don't know what you're used to. That being said, if you've ever tried this thing, or if you've ever tried any other portable brewers that you like, maybe it's the AeroPress, maybe it's the Mini Presso, maybe it's something else, I would love to hear about it in the comments. If you like this video, hit me a like, and now would be a great time to subscribe, because we've got some more amazing coffee adventures coming up very soon. And if you want to find out more about this thing, there's a link in the description. Cheers.